Hey everyone, I'm QuackNate. The point of this video is to show you how to Bloodborne. We're going to go over, not elite strats, but just kind of, it's more of a beginner thing. So if you've picked up the game, you want to start it off, but you're having some trouble, specifically with like the new area right now, the first area, Central Yarnham, we're going to go through that area, kind of show you where all the stuff you need is, kind of talk about how to set up your character, like what the stats do, all that stuff, all of it. Whoop. Maybe I can spell that name. Oop. That was a disaster. Okay, so anyway, we have character creation screen. There's really not a lot to it. You can save your favorite appearances and then come back to them. That way you don't have to fool around with it if you make a whole bunch of characters like I do. I had to delete someone because all my character slots are full. It's neither here nor there. The only thing that really matters is the classes. And if you kind of look at how their points are divvied out, you can kind of see what their deal is. This guy has a lot of points in nothing, just kind of milquetoast. It's kind of on the nose there. He's just kind of in the middle of everything. There's a little bit of blood tinge, some arcane. This stuff's just all over the place. This guy has a lot of vitality, lone survivor. He's tough, so he'll have more health. This guy has more endurance and skill, troubled childhood. Skill is kind of the dexterity of this game. Violent past is more of a strength kind of thing. Professional is more skill and endurance. That's important because endurance is how many times you can hit things, so this would be more of a starting class for like a guy who uses like little weapons, like little daggers and stuff. Military veteran is kind of your quality build. You got your skill and strength, they're sort of even. Vitality and endurance are even, and there's really not a lot put into blood tinge or arcane because those are more kind of fringe builds that you can't really do much with right off the bat. And this is kind of what you'll see here. This is a blood tinge. It's a blood tinge and skill. One of the main blood tinge skill builds revolves around a specific gun and katana that you find later on in the game. So, and then Cruel Fate is the arcane build. And again, arcane is more of like an advanced thing. It's not like Dark Souls where the magic builds are sort of like the easy mode. It's very tough to get a arcane build going, and it's pretty hard to kind of build them out the best way that they can be. It's so late. I've got 2 kids, 40. Just, forgive my brain. Anyway, we're a military veteran, the quality guy. You know, he's got a. We might go the strength guy. Yeah, we're gonna go the strength guy because the weapon we're gonna choose, it does predominantly build off his strength, so that'll give us a little bit more oomph right off the bat. Plus it has more endurance and vitality. So those are the kind of things you think about, like, do I want to have a fast character? Then I should do one of the higher skill guys. Do I want to punch things in the face as hard as possible? Well, that's a strength guy. Interestingly, the visceral attacks, I think, scale up with skill. Anyway. Always take off your hat first thing. This hood is the worst. This first area is Yosefka's Clinic. There's a really neat item you can get right at the beginning. I've literally never used it in combat. Oh, I was wrong. Okay. She doesn't show up till later. Not even a minute into the run and I've already messed it up. Good job, QuackNate. This guy, you could punch him in the face if you want. That's a huge waste of time. Just run by him. It's going to be a theme in this first level. This first level is really just to kind of show you that early on you're very weak. You're not really going to fight a werewolf right now. Even though it's, that werewolf has less than half health to start. The eyes, you're pretty... you're You're way more powerful than like the average citizens in this part of the game, but there's just so many of them. Get that guy there, and he's got some friends back this way. And if you're stalling out early in the game and not having a good time and kind of looking for tips on how to go forward on it, this is probably what you're running into, is this street part later where there's just tons and tons of guys. And I've known a lot of people that have quit playing this game because of that section of this specific level. And I'll kind of show you how to deal with that. Rude. I'm going to talk a little bit about speed running. Not how to do it, but kind of like the things you'll see in speed runs. Like everybody picks the saw cleaver. But you'll see a thing where they pick 2 weapons. They talk about a glitch they can do where they pick up 2 weapons from here. All they're doing that for is there's a area later on where you can hit a guy through a door and skip an entire level. That's all it's for. It's not anything you need to worry about. They do that because it's the quick way to get it. You can also earn a hunter's badge and just kind of buy it later if you want it. But that's literally all we're here for right now, is to get this weapon and this weapon equipped so we can go back and actually be good at Bloodborne. So this first area, Central Yarnham, the most important thing to pick up on when you're kind of going through this area is kind of learning how to pick your fights. Like learn where to stand your ground, kind of what really not worth doing, and then kind of learning how to look at a level and how it kind of folds in on itself. For instance, this road right here, it curls around, it goes down to a street, and you could go that way, or you could just hop through this fence. And instead of being on the street where there's tons and tons of guys, you can enter it a little bit further down. And then on top of that, this is not really a fight that's worth doing. You should just run away from those guys. This is the first bloodstone shard. It's very important. It's how you upgrade your weapon. How dare you. Alright. And honestly, there's really not much else here that you really need. Always pick up bullets if you can use them. The main thing to kind of realize about Bloodborne is it's not like Dark Souls where you kind of get your Estus Flask back at the end of every try. You have a finite amount of bullets and health vials. Right now you say I have 7 and 15. I want to talk about parrying real quick. If you're here from Dark Souls, you know that parrying is very timing intensive and it's very difficult. It's very generous in Bloodborne. You literally just wait till you see their attack coming. Some attacks are easier to do than others. And you just shoot him in the face. It comes off pretty quick. It does a ton of damage. If you don't think you'll be good at it, you're probably wrong. It's very forgiving. Very worth learning to do. Crows are awful. Oil urns are something you can throw at an enemy. It doesn't damage them, but it makes them more susceptible to fire damage, which is important because one of the items we got is a Molotov cocktail, which blows up and covers them in fire. This is another area where it's easiest just to kind of run around everybody. The problem is they block the stairwell. So just kind of take a lap around this fountain, you're done. Once you come up here, there might be some dogs after you, it doesn't really matter. You want to head back to the back of the bridge and pick up your second bloodstone shard. Now, these werewolves. There's a very, very easy strat. Ignore them. Just don't even bother. They're not for you right now. They're not your friend. They're not like a challenge that's worth trying to overcome this early on in the game. Another bloodstone shard right here. Another bloodstone shard right here. This is an example of a guy that parrying makes your life a lot easier with. Let's get close, let him start. See, if you miss, it's fine. Just kind of back up, get some distance. There we go. These guys will almost always drop health vials, which is important because, again, they're finite. This is a thick cold blood. The 5 tells you how powerful it is, not how many you have of them. 5 is pretty staunchy for this early in the game. Most of the ones in this level are cold blood 1s. And that's how you become a hunter. Just put on all that stuff. So that's basically the first kind of section of the game. The first part through the sewer. If you miss those beams, it's fine. And this is kind of the first part of the level you'll see where it kind of loops back in on itself. And kind of remember this area for later. We're going to hit this area next. More crows to your right. This is an extremely important part of your early run. So despite looking like a werewolf game, Bloodborne is actually a cosmic horror game. So one of your... One of the currencies you have is called insight. And it's basically just a measure of how much of the true version of the world you've seen. So if you look at an insight and a madman's knowledge, which I didn't pick up. Oh, I've used it. I'm so stupid. If you look at the madman's knowledge, it basically talks about how when you communicate with the old ones, you're blessed with knowledge, and even if it makes you crazy, that's fine, because it helps you serve your purpose, whatever. So, red lanterns are pretty much an indicator of someone who will talk to you. Sometimes they give you quests, sometimes they just laugh at you for being outside. Remember this area? You got the guy, all the dogs. This is the fountain. This is all those crows where we got that oil. If we go back up here, this is that area where all the guys are at the beginning. Back around here, again, you see a red lantern. That means this guy will talk to you.
I don't reckon you're from round here. Well, stuck outside on a night of the hunt. Oh, you poor, poor thing.
Just the worst. But you can roll through all of her coffins and find that there's a hole in the gate. This is important because if you go left, go through these two doors, up these stairs. Well, we'll take a second to be safe. Here's another bloodstone shard. Very important. This gate is your first major shortcut. This is that lamp we first went to the Hunter's Dream with. Now we're going to go back there. So now that we have one insight, our kind of view of the world is different, and now we can see that the doll is actually alive. And blah blah, she talks so much. So if you ever watch the speedrun, you see that they kill the doll to level up. They'll give all kinds of reasons for it. It's basically only because it's faster. So when she's dead, you just click on her once and you can channel your blood echoes. It's as simple as that. It's not anything crazy. Early on in the game, life is very important. Endurance is very important. Your weapon damage isn't as big of a deal. After you get insight, you also get these tools, a beckoning bell and a silencing blank. You'll usually put those here. And here. Just because I'm particular. Those use insight to summon people, and we'll look at what that looks like. That's leveling in a nutshell. Just get your echoes, get your insight. Now if you use your insight and you go back and your insight is at 0, the doll will be asleep again. That's important information. You need to have at least one insight to be able to level up. So again, this is the area we dropped down in from the very beginning. The dogs are out now. Which is terrible, because the dogs are the worst. You can shoot them and it knocks them down, though. Makes them a lot easier to deal with. This is another quest window. Don't have anything we can do with it yet, though, so we'll just ignore it. One of the things about Bloodborne is its environments have multiple paths almost all the time. Like, for instance, here behind these barrels, there's a door. You'll oftentimes see speedrunners come in here just because this lady gives you a very important item. Bold hunter marks. They let you go back to the lamp without losing any of your souls, so if you're somewhere it looks dangerous, you're probably about to die, you can burn one of those in a safe spot, go back to the lamp, spend your souls, and not have to worry about it too much. Talk to her again, she'll give you an emote. There's two guys hanging here. You can only do one at a time. If you don't want to backtrack and you have to pick, I would recommend doing this one. That one over there is another version of this weapon called the Saw Spear. It's the same thing, same moveset. It scales a little bit more on skill than strength, whereas this one is more strength than skill. They're both essentially quality weapons, which just means they scale well with both. If you want to preserve as much health as possible, you can drop down on here. You don't really take much fall damage in Bloodborne. If you're going to try something dumb like sticking your head in an area with a bunch of enemies, it's best not to leave people behind you. That's just good advice forever. Again, that's another madman's knowledge, so we can go ahead and look at it now. Making contact with eldritch wisdom is a blessing, even or if it drives one mad, it allows one to serve a grander purpose for posterity. And unlike humanity in Dark Souls, you can use these, you don't lose them on death or anything. Ouch. So you might notice as I'm taking damage, you see there's a white bar, and then there's kind of a red that lingers behind it. And if you notice, if I attack somebody while I've got that red in front of the white bar moves up. That's called the rally system, and it's kind of what differentiates this from Dark Souls. If you look at that, I got hit, and I got a lot of what I got hit for back. And it's pretty tough to get all of it back. But the game is built to be played aggressively. So if you take a hit, you hit them right back, you get some of your health back. That's sort of the back and forth you're supposed to take on in this game. This right here is another bloodstone shard, very important. Oh, and I didn't even talk about it. That thing we knocked down off the roof and picked up was 2 bloodstone shards. You probably know that because it said so when I picked them up. And this brings us back to this area. That's the sewers we went through at the very beginning. These guys take a lot of hits to kill. And as you'll see with this guy, if they hit you, it hurts real bad. I don't want to get hit. I'm not going to let them. They don't give you very many blood echoes. Ah, there you go. See? They hit hard, they don't. Really, it's just not worth doing. Underneath this area is this pig guy. And here we'll talk about visceral attack. Try to rally a little bit. We're going to bait an attack. This is a good one. So, unlike Dark Souls, you can't just get behind them and hit them for a riposte or a backstab or whatever. You have to use that charged R2 to make them vulnerable to one. Now with the bigger enemies, it's once you get used to it, it's pretty easy to like bait them into doing bigger attacks that leave them vulnerable. But then if you can hit them from behind with a charged R2, then you can do a visceral attack and fights pretty quickly. Anyway, behind the pig is an exit and a ladder. This is very important. What's nice is every now and then that guy will blow himself up. It doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it's very nice. There's a bunch of guys on this bridge. If you sneak up behind, that boulder will kill all of them. And these are the last 2 guys in the level. Again, if you're sneaky, charged R2, visceral. You have iframes the entire time that's happening. Again, just wait for an attack. Oof. Ah, gracious. So it's a little bit okay to take a trade on a visceral. So that guy hit me the same time I shot him. That's fine. The rally system, when you do a visceral, it'll completely fill up any of your rally health. So even if you have full health, you get hit and take a ton of damage. If you visceral based on that, you'll get it all back. So don't be afraid to try viscerals. It's, especially in this first area, it's pretty safe. Like I said, if you pull off the gun parry, you get everything back. Again, blood vials are a finite resource, so you want to collect all of them you can. This elevator is the second major shortcut. See, swinging, can't hit me. Well, that's unfortunate, but fine. Because we've opened up the shortcuts. And I'll show you right where that is from the beginning of the level. That's them right there. That's how close we were. So Bloodborne is a little bit different than Dark Souls. It still works the same way where your blood echoes fall on the ground, but if an enemy happens across them, they'll consume them, and you got to kill that enemy to get your blood echoes back. So we're going to be a little bit more careful this time. Stairs. The enemy of the visceral attack. We're going to get this guy out in the open. I dodged that, we all saw it. Again, you see the rally health, get it all back when you do a visceral. So real quick, I'm going to touch on transform attacks. A transform attack is when you transform your weapon in the middle of an attack. So if I swing and then hit transform, he transforms it while attacking for a transform attack. Those are really important because if you ever watch a speedrun, you'll see a guy hit a boss and doing ridiculous amounts of damage. You're like, that's too much damage. That's more than you should be able to do. Call the police. He's doing illegal stuff. But it's really just the combination of beast blood pellets and transform attacks. Beast blood pellets, we don't have any right now, but what they do is, as you do damage, they build up the beast meter. The beast meter, the more you have, the more damage you do, and the more damage you take, so it's pros and cons. But it builds up fastest by doing transform attacks. Also, most weapons do more damage in their transformed state, and that's a real easy way to get off a very quick transformed version of your attack. I'm going to show you the easy way to deal with these wolves now. Being cowardice. They can't fit through the door. Just boop them. worth doing because they give you a lot of echoes, and they tend to drop bloodstone shards sometimes. But as you can see, we've already got 9 of them. You only need 8 to get your weapon to where we really want it to be coming up. So now we'll show you kind of how the Bolt Hunter's Mark works, even though we're like very close to the beginning. That's literally it. It'll pop you back to the last lamp you used. Kind of like a homeward bone. And now our weapon does more damage, which is great. That's what we want. Real quick, up here is another vendor. I guess we haven't looked at the first one first. But this vendor trades in insight, which again is well, we talked about it. This item right here is an insight-based item. Small resonant bell. And it's sort of the companion to the beckoning bell. Kind of based on their names, you can probably kind of guess at what they do. The beckoning bell pulls people into your world. The resonant bell will pull you into other people's worlds. Bloodborne does have password matchmaking. It's right here. So I don't have a password set, which means that I will just kind of go with anybody, right? So if I ring my beckoning bell, it's going to use my last insight, and then anybody in this area within my level range who's ringing their resonant bell will kind of be pulled into me, up to 2 people. And since you don't have any way to know if anybody's even here doing that, it's kind of a guessing game on whether or not somebody will actually show up. If they don't, it's fine. But we're gonna fight the first boss right now. I'm really just killing time to see if anybody will show up. Just slow walk to the boss. Nope. Another thing to keep in mind, this is important for a little bit later on. That little bell icon below my health, that indicates that you're seeking help. If you get too close to the boss arena, a little X will appear on it. That will mean that you're no longer looking for help. Some boss areas, the line between when you're looking for help, when you're not looking for help is much, much bigger. And so if you're standing near a boss door and nobody's showing up, that's the icon you look to. If it's got the X, that's why. But we'll just take them by ourselves. This guy's not too bad. I mean, he certainly can be. So if you notice, the targeting can target him in 2 different places. His chest and his head. If you target his head, and shoot him, it'll open him up for a visceral attack right off the bat. which I missed because I'm a scrub. So Bloodborne bosses typically use a limb system. And what that means is that everybody's got legs and arms. And if you damage specific limbs, you'll notice that like one leg is bleeding, one's not. Breaking a limb will stagger the boss. See his arms like he's trying to hug you, that's a grab move. If you see him do that, that means he's healing himself. He might have healed his head, which means we might be able to get another visceral. That would have worked by now. So yeah, the secret to this guy is to dash through his attacks, just hit his legs. See, that's a limb break. There was another one. What we didn't talk about is Molotovs. They're hard to hit him with. Oof. We're going to run to the other side real quick and equip Oil. Kind of show you how that works too. Oil Urn, get him close, throw it at him. Completely miss. Completely miss again. Alright, well, never mind. And that's Bloodborne bosses 101. Just don't be where they're attacking. Hit them with their sensitive little limbs. Always more bullets. I find Cleric Beast, it's not really worth it to try and hit him with stuff like Molotovs. I mean, fire does a lot of damage to him because he's a beast, but the way the targeting works for throwables and the way he moves means you miss a lot. And you kind of saw that with my my mollies there at the end. I don't know why I couldn't find it. So back to this area where those two big guys are patrolling. We're going to make our way to the second boss. And if you notice, the bell is still ringing, which means that we're still looking for a go-up. Except now that we're in an elevator, it turns off. And this is what this looks like if you don't go under the bridge. Again, you can just run right through them. See, it's not 100%. So the shield guys, you might have noticed I jumped on them. That is, if you hit forwards and then R1 or R2, sorry, at the same time, you'll do a jumping attack. Does a bit more damage. That's how you get through shield guys. That's literally how matchmaking works. You just ring one bell, and then kind of pray someone good shows up. Oof! Ruined my surprise attack. And it will pull in up to 2 people if they're in the area. And that guy is waiting. And this is sort of the big boss for the first area. He's going to be very easy with 3 people. but if you're just starting off, this game really is a lot of fun with co-op. I kind of recommend it. One thing about co-op, though, is everybody has to hit start to skip the cinematics. Which someone did. This guy can be parried, if you're good at that. Sometimes I'm not. He can also be backstabbed. If you're good at it, which I am not. Ooh.
What's that smell? The sweet blood. Oh, it seems to me it's enough to make a man sick.
This is important. When this guy rushes you, you want to dodge into him, not away from him. It seems like the opposite of everything you've ever learned, but if you dodge away from him, he will catch, he will kill you. If you dodge into him, you'll go straight through him, and he'll be behind you, and you'll be in a position to counterattack. You'll notice my insight, I have 8 insight. You get 4 for every boss that you find. That might go up as you go later on. Maybe not, I don't really know. So you get insight for finding bosses, interesting areas and levels you'll gain some insight. All kinds of stuff. You go on the other way, works the same way. You ring a small resonant bell, you wander around. You also get insight for fighting bosses in other people's worlds as long as you get 50% of the XP you would normally get. You don't take that from them, you get it in addition to them getting full XP for the boss kill. Alright, so, the little girl we talked to, she gave us this little box. And she talked about how her mom always had this red pendant, and that's how we would... This is her mom. So if you're tired of seeing the searching whatever, or you just don't want anybody, or you don't want to go anywhere, you can ring the silencing bell. Disrupting resonance will send people home, and you can choose specific people, and silence the small resonant bell will stop you from looking to go do co-op. This right here is very important. I assume nobody's going to skip it because it's a treasure chest right next to the only way to get out of the level. But it is a blood gem tool that will let you put blood gems on your weapons. And real quick, I'll just kind of explain how that works. We don't have any blood gems right now. We could get one, but we're not going to. Basically, the red jeweled brooch, you can use it, it'll break open and turn into a blood gem. But then you can't go on with that quest. This is a guy some people probably miss. He looks very evil and crazy, but he's actually very nice.
Hmm? Oh, you must be good. Wait,
Blah 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 blah. Essentially,
I know. Oh,
he's just asking you to send people to him, right? So we're going to go back to the Hunter stream. This is the beginning of the Cathedral Ward, which is the area that, well, there's a guy at the beginning of the level, near the first map, who talks about it. Don't have to listen to her say nothing. And essentially, I'm going to basically level these three stats evenly until these two are at 20, and then I'll get this to 25. Strength build. So, blood gems. Again, we don't have any right now, but as we fortify our weapons, you see that at +2 right now, in the right-hand corner, kind of where you see that glowing thing, that first one is a blood gem. Upgrading it to +3 will upgrade a second blood gem slot, and getting it to +6 will get it open up the third blood gem slot. And then here you just literally pick your weapon, pick the slot, and pick your gem you want to put in there. And they do things like they increase damage, they add poison or fire or bolt or different kinds of things. They can add bleed effects, they can do all kinds of stuff. They can make you do more damage if you're at low health, or make you do more damage if you're at max health, or they can make your health slowly tick back up, or they can let you do more damage versus beasts. There's all kinds of them. And mostly they're in the Chalice dungeons, which is what all these graves are for, but we're not going to talk about that today. But it's very important for getting the most kind of out of your DPS. You get a decent amount of extra damage from your weapon scaling. So if you look at it, the attribute bonuses, D and E, it's a D scaling from strength and an E scaling from skill. So if you look at the physical attack number, 108 is the base damage, and +12 is the scaling damage it gets from both strength and skill. So you get a decent amount of stuff from your strength and your skill and your scaling. You get a lot more damage for upgrading your weapon, but the majority of like your bonus damage to really just start hitting like a truck is going to come from some blood gems that you find later on in the game. But that's enough about that for now. That was Central Yarnham. I hope that all made sense. I hope I didn't sound like a crazy person. And we'll come back to Cathedral Ward in a little bit.